Well, I want to go into something that people talk about. Are we going into inflation or deflation? I went into this before a little bit, but I'm going to explain a couple things, some other angles that some people don't look at exactly. Well, first off, the answer to that question, it could be both. And I'm not talking about there's going to be inflation one week, then deflation the next week. I mean, simultaneously. And actually, the answer is really going to be inflation. And let me explain that because, I'll give the example of what happened in Germany in the early 1920s in the Weimar Republic. There was extreme inflation of the everyday consumable items that people need, like food and fuel and, heating for the home and things like that, and extreme deflation of large assets that people can put off for a while, like buying a house or buying a car or buying a whatever, something large item, large ticket items. So that's really what's going to happen. Sometimes people call that stagflation, but really that's what inflation is. And that's really the good game. It's to steal from the middle class. Now, I'm going to say something else here. It's a little common sense. I don't want to knock the consumeristic society or anything like that, but that's really how people are getting screwed up. Because, you start thinking about all the products that have been out there over the last so many decades. It's like marketing and salesmanship have caused people to buy these products whether they need them or not. Like, I don't know, let's say with houses or whatever. The houses that were built many years ago, a lot of times are much stronger. If a brick or stone house, even from 2 centuries ago, is structurally a hell of a lot more sound than most of the stuff that's built today. And you could say this with anything. I mean, you could say it with, and actually a lot of this stuff comes back in vogue. Antiques, 50s furniture starts selling again, or turn of the century furniture starts selling again. And actually, if you look at some of the furniture that was built even 50 years ago, not even that long ago, or even like 70 or 80 years ago, the stuff is far superior to anything made today. It's like today you got a piece of particle board, press board, with a picture on it, but it sells because of marketing. And everybody's in this mode where they got to replace stuff. It's a game, and you can actually say this with anything. Actually I even look at cars, I'd rather have a 40s or 50s car, like brand new, with maybe some updated technology so it stops and steers or something, but better than the normal one, though, that from the time long ago, versus the stuff they got today. It's a joke. I mean, I really don't see why people need to be constantly updating things, but that is what people do. And you know what? By doing that, they're in debt. They're in debt. They buy a lot of, when good times are rolling, they buy, and then they figure the status quo is going to keep going, but nope, that debt is still there with the interest. So, I don't want to make this sound like, but that's pretty much everybody out there. That's just how they are. So, talking again about inflation versus deflation, we're going to have inflation in things that people need, especially energy costs. Now, I mentioned this before. A lot of the reason why the dollar has not fallen apart is because oil backs up the dollar, the petrodollar, right? That causes countries to hold dollars overseas because that's how you purchase oil, right? That's even really the main reason they see Iran as an enemy. Not even so much as the nuclear program, but because Iran will not even accept dollars for its oil. It did beyond what Saddam Hussein said, when Saddam Hussein wanted to use euros, right? That's a threat to the dollar. That is really, because, the world reserve currency, that's what gives the USA a lot of strength. Now, the higher the oil prices, the more dollars that must be held overseas. So there is an impetus to let oil, not just from like the local um, domestic oil producers that are very wealthy to make a lot of money. There's another reason why they would let oil prices go up a lot, because that's going to keep more dollars overseas, because still oil is, I know there's new things coming up where they're doing direct trade agreements, but still largely oil is mainly traded in US dollars. So if oil, let's say, let's make extreme examples, $50 a barrel, there's that many dollars in you need a 500,000 barrels a year or something, so you have to have that many dollars on hand. If it's $200 a barrel and you need 50 million barrels a year, you need 4 times as much US dollars to keep your country going, your GDP going. And oil is absolutely essential to all the productivity in the world, not just for energy, but for pesticides, for agriculture, plastics, nylons, all the byproducts, pharmaceuticals, you name it. So, if oil is traded globally, largely in US dollars, as the price goes up, that's going to be your last ditch effort to kind of save the dollar. Now, that is going to hurt the middle class. And, when you're talking about inflation, that's going to be actually the real inflation. And where you're going to see deflation is the middle class is going to say, well, do I need to upgrade my couch? Do I need to upgrade my car? Do I need to change this out because there's a new style out here? No, they don't need to do that. And the price of those items is going to suffer. And actually, people that bought too much house before, it's going to happen. There'll be troubled assets in the bank's balance sheets, and the Federal Reserve is going to come and buy those up. So but it's not any different from how inflation works before in any other country. It's like the big ticket items that people do not have to buy. They can fix up the old. They can make do with what they have. Those sales are going to be tough to get rolling. Consumers are not going to want to buy them. But items such as food, home heating oil, electricity, gas for the car, they're going to have to buy that. Those things are going to go up. And like I said, oil prices are probably going to go up because it's going to be a last-ditch way that the dollar will be protected, because most of the dollars are held overseas because oil is traded in dollars, largely traded in dollars, right? For the most part, I know they're doing more and more direct trade agreements, but as the price of oil goes up, that means there's going to be more and more dollars that have to be held overseas. So when you see China saying like they're not buying any more U.S. debt, it still creates a demand for dollars if oil prices are high. So that helps strengthen the dollar. Isn't that weird? It doesn't help strengthen the dollar as far as the American middle class, though, because energy is like, if you take the lowest wages in the United States, that's a larger percentage of their income, right? It's energy cost, food cost, and all this type of stuff. So it's going to really hurt the lower paid people and the middle class. Now, I can also state that I don't even know why, because even in good times, I do not change stuff around. I do not upgrade stuff. I do not change stuff around. I've seen where, I guess maybe it's bad examples, but, there's people that have to constantly remodel the kitchen all this time, a brand new house. 2 or 3 years later, they picked out the floor, they picked out everything, and it's got to be changed, But I'm more or less old school on a lot of stuff, and actually that's a money saver. So if you play conservative and everything, you're probably going to be okay. But in reality, you're going to see a lot more inflation in energy cost, food cost, and also that should affect the metals, because as I pointed out before, about 50% of the bare bones operating cost of a mine is diesel fuel. So, it's going to, if they're losing money now at these prices, they're really going to be losing money if oil goes up to $150 a barrel or whatever the hell it is. I don't know when that's going to occur because I thought it was going to occur over a year ago. But, the consumerist mentality is just ridiculous. I don't like knock it in too much, but it's like there's a tendency to make stuff cheaper and cheaper and faster and flimsier and flimsier, and you're not actually getting much benefit out of it. It's just to make a quick sale. Like, good example is antique furniture compared to what they got today. They got some of the best furniture out there that was made 80 or 100 years ago. It's like put together much, much stronger. It's like nobody today would make that, even though it was made with hand tools and not something on a CNC lathe or something like that. It's designed where it's never going to be something that's not a thing of beauty. And I could actually state that even with fashion and anything else out there, and some of the gimmicks and stuff that are out there, because we can even point that out in the fashions of what a woman should look like. From the Marilyn Monroe in the 40s movie actresses to beginning with Twiggy in the 60s and the model of anorexia. It's like we went from normal to weird, like little boys, So, that's probably an example of, how, people are brainwashed by marketing. And actually, you can almost say women are brainwashed by some of that. Some women are, some aren't, But you could almost say they're brainwashed by that too. It's like, what is the model? How skinny is the model? She's below 100 pounds or whatever the hell it is, so I have to do it. That kind of garbage. So, but that's exactly how the American economy and American middle class gets crushed, because it's superfluous garbage. It really is. It's trash. You could have things from 100 years ago that were built much, much better than they are today. The only difference between today and then is the electronic technology and the means of communication and information source, ways of information that has been greatly improved. But as far as substantial things, not at all. But those things are the things that you're probably going to see deflation in. So, big ticket items such as furnitures, I think real estate may go down because, if things go really extreme, where like oil's getting hard, middle class is getting pressed too hard, because people are not going to pay even for rent. And, it's like right now the real estate industry is kind of moving up pretty good. And that's because there's no incentive to keep money in a CD in a bank. There's nobody paying any kind of interest, so people are speculating in real estate right now. But that may reverse itself too, because if you look at the classic examples of what happened in countries where there was extreme inflation, and like I said, when you have extreme inflation, even in the classic sense, it's extreme inflation in food, energy, and things that people have to have on a daily basis, and therefore they do not pay for anything else. They will not buy a new house, they will not buy a new car, they will not buy new clothes, they will not buy new furniture. They will make do with what they have. And if they're renters, they'll try to skip out on the rent, take the cheapest rent, or whatever the hell it is. They'll coexist with other people, split bills, and all this other stuff. So that is why the housing market may actually reverse itself. You might actually see some downtrend in that at some time if we go into inflation. But like I says, you have to understand this. Inflation, and no matter where it was, when the currency gets degraded, it just gets destroyed, it gets devalued. People spend on essentials, which goes up is energy and food especially. Now, energy is linked to the metals. It's not perfectly linked, but that is one reason they're probably going to go up more. So, just want to put that out there because it's kind of like, you say inflation and deflation. It's kind of like depending on what sector of the economy you're talking about. Big ticket items or daily items that people have to have. So, they will be spending a larger percentage of their income on food and energy, and they'll have less disposable income to buy, new stereos, new clothes, new cars, and all this other stuff. So that's exactly how it's going to work. So the big ticket items you might see going down in price. And actually, I remember car lots in the late 70s when silver and gold was going up in 1979, the cars were having horrendous sales. Terrible. The market was terrible. But gold and silver was flying upward and the price of oil was flying upward. So that's why you're probably going to see both. But it's going to depend on what area of the economy you're talking about.